Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. Leslie had crossed the final line, no longer stopping at half-hidden manipulation, but choosing something far crueler to control Derek. She struck at the exact moment when he was at his weakest. When his mind was unsteady, his pride was fragile, and the pressure on him had worn down his resistance to its lowest point. For Leslie, this was not merely a trap meant to lure Derek into bed with her. It was a calculated scheme designed to break his dignity, make him doubt his own memory, and turn himself into the guilty party inside a false reality she had carefully constructed. The most terrifying part was not simply what Leslie did, but how cold she was in doing it, cold enough to turn an intimate moment into a weapon, ruthless enough to push a man who was already losing his sense of direction into a suffocating mix of shame, guilt, and confusion. After that night, Derek was no longer himself. He woke in a state of exhaustion, his thoughts fragmented, with the sensation that some dark void was slowly swallowing his memory. All that remained were a few blurred images, a few distorted emotional fragments, and a nameless dread that clung to him without mercy. He could not say for certain what had happened, yet he was not at peace enough to believe that he was innocent. That uncertainty was exactly what Leslie wanted most. She did not need Derek to remember clearly. She only needed him to doubt himself, to carry a sense of shame every time he looked back on that night, to lock himself inside silence because he feared that the truth, or what he believed was the truth, would destroy everything he was still trying to protect. But plans that seem perfect always carry a fracture somewhere. Leslie believed too much in her power to control others and forgot that deception, no matter how refined, can never hide every crack. Derek changed too suddenly. The confusion in his eyes did not resemble the guilt of a man who had made a mistake. It looked more like the expression of someone dragged through a nightmare he could not name. The unnatural silences, the strained avoidance, the self-reproach tangled with groundless confusion. All of it formed a picture that felt deeply out of rhythm. It was not the mark of desire or betrayal. It was the trace of damage, of a blow so deep that even the victim could not understand what kind of wound he was carrying. Kat was the first to notice that broken rhythm. She had never been the kind of person to overlook small details, especially when they involved someone she knew well. At first, her suspicion came quietly, just a faint sense that something was wrong in the way Derek tried to piece the story together. But the more she watched, the more she realized the pieces did not fit. Derek was not acting like a man hiding pleasure or the consequences of a bad decision. He was acting like someone trapped inside a maze of damaged memory, as if someone had staged the scene and then left him there to drown in his own shame. That was what made it impossible for Kat to stay still. To her, the truth had never been a simple matter of who was right and who was wrong. It was also a question of justice, the final line between manipulation and cruelty, between control and something far more sinister. The more Kat followed those signs, the closer she came to a far more terrifying realization. This was not one reckless night, not one moment of weakness, but a plan built through Leslie's cold, deliberate calculation. Every move Leslie made had a purpose. From choosing the exact moment when Derek was most vulnerable to making sure he woke in just enough confusion to accuse himself. Leslie did not simply want Derek to fall. She wanted him to believe that the fall had been entirely his own doing. It was the kind of cruelty that does not need to be loud in order to destroy. It cuts deeper because it does not crush the victim all at once. It leaves them to slowly consume themselves from within. What makes this story even more suffocating is that no one can come out of it whole. If Leslie is exposed, what collapses will not be just one scheme, but the entire mask of control she has fought to maintain. If Derek learns that he was truly a victim inside his own confusion, he will have to face a different kind of pain. The pain of having his power of choice stolen. The pain of having once despised himself when the person who should have carried the shame was someone else. And Kat, the closer she gets to the truth, the more she is forced to choose between exposing everything and accepting the explosion that will follow, or staying silent in order to protect what little remains. But in a case like this, silence itself begins to feel like another kind of betrayal. Perhaps the most haunting part of this story is that it does not need noise to become a tragedy. There is no explosion, no blood, no grand public spectacle. There is only a closed room, a trap built out of cruelty, a man waking with a broken memory, and a woman standing outside that curtain, clear-headed enough to realize that something is terribly wrong. That is why this kind of quiet brutality feels so frightening. It reaches into the most fragile part of a person, their trust in themselves. And if this storyline truly explodes on screen, what will haunt viewers most may not be how evil Leslie was, but how alone Derek must have felt in the moment when he no longer knew whether to trust his own memory or the fear tightening around his chest. Thank you for watching the entire video. Please like and subscribe to the channel for the latest updates on the series.